Hey guys, it's Dani. Today I'm gonna tell you all about this setup, starting with the Kokedama style mount, ending with the glass cloche, and of course with the orchid that I have in here, because this is a really pretty and I believe special orchid, not very commonly seen in collections, called Ornithocephalus powellii. Hopefully I pronounced it correctly. And I think you can judge for yourselves how this orchid is really different, quite unique, and extremely beautiful on its own without having flowers. I decided to keep the, let's say, pendant or upside down type of display because it just fits it so well. The problem is, here in my environment, things dry out within a matter of minutes. It's pretty warm most of the times. Living in a subtropical, dry climate, it's not easy with mounted orchids. So I came up with a little solution that not only will fare well in warm and dry climates, but also in warm and dry homes, which generally speaking, it is the case for most of us. So I'm gonna take you through all of the process. It was a trial and error for me as well, since this is the first time that I'm doing something like this. I believe it is important to show you what I tried, what failed, because most of the times it really isn't as easy as you see in videos. Within 5 minutes, all of the project is done and everything went smoothly. No, not really. Alright, so we'll start with the process, which happened about a couple of months ago. You'll have the dates on the screen just so you have an idea about the progress of this orchid. And at the end, I'll come back with some more thoughts. So if you end up enjoying this video, don't forget to give it a like, a share would be great, leave me a comment telling me what you think about the setup, and why not subscribe? I post 3 times a week. So with that said, let's start with the beginning. So first off, I tried to go DIY all the way with this project. So I made a hook from a bent wire that I had around, and I tried to attach it to the cloche with hot glue. Initially, it looked like it will hold, so I went on to change the mount of the orchid. I actually went for a Kokedama inspired kind of a thing with a twist. I placed sphagnum moss on the inside for moisture retention and tied it up with a zip tie. I then shaped it using fishing line. The outer layer is coconut fiber. I decided to use this on top of the sphagnum moss to prevent algae deposits, which in my area happen super fast and they're excessive. I had roots really being affected by algae deposits. Shocker, the setup failed and actually caught the orchid kind of falling just a few minutes after I attached it to the cloche. The next attempt did not imply handmade hooks. So what I did was find some bathroom plastic hooks from 3M or Command, not entirely sure if it's the same brand, that comes with its own double adhesive tape. And first off, I tried using the tape. And of course, it didn't work, it didn't stick because the cloche is round and the hook is not, but I had to try. So after it promptly didn't want to stick, I tried hot glue, and initially it looked super strong. It looked like it would hold. Also, I decided to redo the mount because, let's face it, it was kind of ugly. It wasn't at all roundish in shape. I don't know what shape that was. And I also didn't like the appearance of the fishing line way too much. So I kept the concept with the sphagnum moss inside and then the outer layer of cocoa fiber, but I shaped it and tied it all together using jute twine, which gives it a rustic look, a more natural look nonetheless. I don't think it attracts algae, and it's just much easier to work with. And guess what? It turned out to be much prettier. So it looked like my project and my mount would hold, right? Well, after a few days, the hot glue gave in and I found my orchid on the bottom of the cloche with a few leaves bent, which didn't make me happy at all. So I went and got myself supplies, and a week after I redid everything. Well, except the Kokedama mount. Which brings me to present day. As you can see, a few things changed. First of all, the cloche is a little bit taller, and this is because the edges of the leaves in the older cloche, which was shorter, were starting to touch the base, which is not ideal. I can already see the ends being just a little bit more blunt, and I really don't want to damage this orchid in any way, so I just got myself a taller cloche. Second, you will notice that the way in which I attached the orchid is different. What ended up happening was all the glue experiments failed. In very high moisture conditions, glue doesn't really perform all that well, generally speaking, unless it's made for high moisture or water. And I could have gotten myself such a glue, but I came up with a different idea. I'm using, that took me by surprise, I'm using magnets. So I went to Amazon and I got myself some magnets, round magnets like this, and also magnetized hooks. You'll have these products linked in my Amazon affiliate store down below, but first try at your local hardware store. Some stores actually carry these things. I didn't find them in my area. You might. So basically the hook stays inside the cloche and the magnet goes right on top. It is mobile, as you can see. In some setups, I actually arranged the hook on the side like this, and it worked great as well. So this actually gives me a lot more flexibility rather than glue. Of course, I could have gone for aquarium silicone, which I actually have because I have aquariums. But I think this is just a little bit better because it's not permanent, easy to remove, easy to give up if you end up not liking this without actually damaging way too much the cloche or having to scrub silicone. The base of the cloche is wood, which is a little bit problematic. As you can see, it already cracked right here. So what I like to do is spray it with another top coat of paint, let it dry and let it aerate for a couple of days and then use it. And that seems to work out really well. But I can very well just replace this stand with a plate or a glass bowl or something that actually doesn't get damaged by water. I'm keeping this for the moment because I sprayed it and I treated it. I'll see if it cracks all the way. I might change it, but for now it stays. So that's about it on the cloche and the setup. And about the mount, I will have to say I really like it, and it held up great. The orchid seems to enjoy it a lot. I see there are a few spots where sphagnum moss still shows and it's already a little bit green, but I'll make sure to cover it really well. If I would have left the sphagnum moss as it were, it would have gotten full of algae just like this. If this happened within like a couple of months, you can imagine in a year what happens. It does not look good. I had roots being severely damaged by excessive algae, and at the end of the day, maybe even some cyanobacteria, judging by the smell. So you can understand now why I decided to opt for an outer layer of cocoa fiber. It did its job. It's not necessary to do, but if you have algae issues, this will save your day. I water this every week to a week and a half to 2 weeks, depending on the weather. It's been a little bit warm lately, so I did water it about once a week, and it was okay with me. And how I do things is I just lay it in a tray of water, I soak it a little bit practically, and then I let it drip outside of the cloche. So I do let it out overnight pretty much, just to make sure that all of that excess water gets eliminated. It is a little bit too much for a cloche, in my opinion, even in my warm and dry climate. And the next day I just put it back in the cloche, just like so, and she is ready to go for about another week and a half to 2 weeks. And so far so good. I have to say this orchid grew so much ever since I placed her in the cloche. She's been doing great. I see new leaves growing, but most importantly, I have 2 flower spikes developing. I'm so excited beyond words. I was not expecting it to bloom. It's not really the magic of the cloche or anything, but it does signify that the orchid is happy, is enjoying its environment. It was not set back or shocked in any way. Of course, higher humidity prevents excessive water loss, which can happen when you repot an orchid until those roots grab a hold onto everything and start to really drink water. Well, I kind of bypassed all of that. I have no dehydration signs. I can see the roots, and I also have new growing roots. The leaves look absolutely normal. Orchid looks okay. Flower spikes, there is no reason for me to believe that there's anything wrong with this orchid or that it's stressed or shocked in any way. So needless to say, I'm more than happy with this setup, and I'm so happy that I don't need to water this orchid super often for it actually being mounted and not potted, given even in the Kokedama style. Now, one thing that many of you asked me when I told you about my plan a couple of months ago is, what am I going to do with mold situations, with rotting and things of the sorts? Well, first and foremost, I am keeping this orchid how it naturally grows. So water doesn't really pool in the crowns or in between the leaves because I do let it drain. I let it overnight to get rid of that excess naturally. So it really does what it's naturally programmed to do. I don't interfere in any way by keeping it upright, by changing its natural way of growth like we do typically with Phalaenopsis orchids. The cloche, as tight as you might see it, it's not really all that tight. So this wood is really uneven, and I think you can also notice the cloche is not really making a seal with the wood. So there is some evaporation, water does escape, there is some air that goes in here, but from time to time, every few days, although sometimes every week, I do just remove the cloche and just take a look at the orchid, let some air go in the cloche. It is important to refresh the air in these cloches, but every time you water it, you are going to refresh the air. And really honestly, mold issues have more to do with the environment, the pathogen load that you have in your environment, rather than the setup itself. Yes, something like this might be super detrimental in particular environments or for particular homes, but absolutely adequate for other environments. Hence why whenever you see somebody do something on the internet, it's a good idea to just try it out first, maybe with an orchid that is not so hard to replace, maybe an orchid you're not all that fond of, nothing you cannot find really fast afterwards or that you care a lot about. Just test it out first with an orchid like a mini Phalaenopsis or things of the sort, see how it goes, see if you're prone to issues or not, and if you just like the setup and it works well with your lifestyle. One thing to keep in mind is that anything that is dead will attract mold. So dead roots, you have to remove them. Excessive dried sheets, again, you have to remove them. Everything that is not alive anymore will attract mold because it is part of the natural biodegrading process. So better the process happen outside in your garden or the compost pile rather than the cloche. And with that said, I think we are done for today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this will inspire you to maybe try out some mounted orchids. If you want to try the Kokedama style mount outside of the cloche, I do believe that will work as well, and you will not have to water it way too often. So really up to you how you interpret this setup. It's more for inspiration than anything, but I will be sure to keep you up to date and see how things go. Second, I think we'll talk about this orchid when it's going to be in full bloom. Fingers crossed everything goes well. And with that said, thank you so much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed your time, and I hope you have a great day. Subscribe to my channel for more orchid videos, tutorials, experiments, updates, and other fun orchid subjects. If you wish to support the channel, do consider becoming a member or visit the merch store linked down below in the description. You can also follow me on Instagram and Facebook. It's always nice to stay in touch there as well. And with that said, I'll see you next time. Bye!